And I feel like that's where Flavio definitely has then a potential upper hand going.
Okay, let's go.
Kicking into this match.
Oha.
It's going to be that double grass.
Sehr guter Lied. Also habe ich Red Bull trinke bunter. Ich finde Red Bull Arsch. Was trinkt sie? Just Legends.
And the thing is, too, is maybe if you're anticipating a potential fake out into that slot, then even the Rillaboom having the faster one, you do have to be careful if you're Flavio of that.
Nee, ich finde Just Legends 100%. Also Just Legends ist schon safe bei den Links. Energy zu 100%.
Exactly, and you can see the Ogerpon switching straight out here, wanting to make the adjustment, knowing that it was in a very vulnerable position from both of these Pokemon and can reset that Intimidate. Urshifu joins the field though as the fake out goes down.
Fake out in Excalibur.
No setup for it today.
Und Fake out in.
And that is just going to be a fake out, which is only going to be good for a little bit of chip into the Urshifu. So great swap coming out from Adam. And now something that can be pressuring in quite a variety of ways.
Ich selber wohl gesponsert von Just Legends. Würde ich auch sagen, wenn ich nicht mehr von Just Legends gesponsert werde.
With the blue Gastrodon in the back too. So Adam has to be so careful. And Flavio, I mean, if you bring that Gastrodon in too
nicht
early,
Shigea.
Rillaboom on the opposing end that could be hitting a powerful attack into that slot.
At the minute you're playing the guessing game, if you are Adam, do I go for Surging Strikes? Is there going to be a Gastrodon in the back? There is indeed. We've got that sneaky inside, and it is...
Oh ja, Gastrodon mit und für Cinepini.
Well, Flavio has decided to try and switch that in. Let's see if there is potentially going to be that Surging Strikes, because it must be so tempting on Adam's side to go for that into the Incineroar and just remove it straight away from the field. It is Choice Scarf. It's going to be a very fast Urshifu, but there's the back Excalibur.
Mir fehlt irgendwie so ein Heavy-Hitter an Flavios Team. Neben Excalibur. Gastrodon. Ja, gut.
And that is going to be what's targeting into it. A lot of damage going into the Gastrodon. It will be a stage of lower defense and special defense over onto your Shifu.
U-turn Incineroar, okay.
So Gastrodon at least safe from the double up. Won't get killed this turn around. And Adam gets a pivot.
The issue is, though, Gastrodon has now been exposed. That information is
glaube ich, die Abgangstirade haben wir gesehen.
Throughout the rest of the match. Of course, the Urshifu is going to be locked into close combat. It is going to have its defense and special defense dropped by this. And the Incineroar still has the utility to go for a move in this turn. The one thing I like about the way Adam has played...
Welche Terra hat auf Espinodon? Wenn es Terra Gift ist, dann kann den hier easy reinholen und Terran.
This is so much damage potential that could be coming out, though. The parting shot will at least bring this to a negative.
Ja, das ist die Ding-Switch. Das ist die spielen da ja auf einer vorgefertigten Switch. Auf dem Profil. Das ist auch Terra-Käfer, lol. Der hatet ja Terra-Gift übelst. Crazy.
Yes, I completely agree. It's definitely a difficult time for the Gastrodon. I wouldn't be surprised to see it switch out in the next turn for something like Incineroar to kind of drop the Intimidate down. You know that the opposing Urshifu is locked into close combat as well, so it doesn't have that guaranteed critical hit. The one thing I like is the Pheasantipity on the field. I want to see it maybe try and get some pressure down on the field.
Ich weiß nicht, wie die Attacken auf Italienisch heißen. Was ist Fangobomb?
Well, too. I'm not quite sure how much damage this thing is going to be doing, but you do also have the Toxic Chain, so a potential chance
Fango Bomba.
The
Sludge Bomb, okay.
And you do actually have moves that can be critical.
Bomba, Junge. Nein, da. Klingt echt stark.
Yes, and it is, you know, a reasonably bulky
Bomba, Mann.
But you want to make sure that it's able to have that longevity on the field too. As you've mentioned, set those poisons up and start ticking away at the timer on the opposing side. It can be a slow and steady way to win a match, but at the end of the day, you deal damage to get the knockouts, and that's how you win.
And it, I mean, where
it's for me
is it's slow and steady,
wir
but you're going
sehen,
up against a team
Landorus.
that has so much power to it. Even more so, Lando,
und wahrscheinlich Spiky Shield. Oh, da wird wahrscheinlich ein Sludge Bomb in Spiky Shield reinfliegen.
Yes, Incineroar is replacing that Gastrodon. A really nice play by Flavio, being able to...
Da wird ein Sludge Bomb in dieses Spiky Shield fliegen.
But as we know, the Landorus Incarnate is running that special moveset.
Oh nee, Terra Instant. Aber ist Minus 2.
It will be, and it will be that Heart Flame Ogerpon in body aspect and also going into just a pure fire type.
Der wird halt Rankenkeule in dieses Facility drücken. Oder Pflanzenmove in Incineroar. Nee. Das geht komplett in Facility. Aber es war kein Crit. Wie viel macht Fangobomba? Fangobomba? Nix. Gar nichts. Crazy. Oh, Cam ausgefallen.
Great job dropping that grass typing, and even with the toxic chain and the potential of badly poisoning, you're not going to be hitting it this time around. And that's, I think, one of the biggest issues with Pheasantipity is you're not necessarily
nur kurz gucken, was da noch für Mon hat.
Crazy damage output to start, and if you're not hitting that toxic chain, then it actually just kind of feels bad going on forward as well.
You really do need to keep your fingers crossed and try and get those secondary effects coming into fruition in order to allow Pheasantipity to shine.
Die fangen gerade ehrlich nicht so gebombt. Ah, nicht Torsina. Geht wirklich für Torsina? Weiß ich nicht, Leute, aber ich will es allgemein nicht. Nein, dürfte ich natürlich. Aber ich will es trotzdem nicht. Oh ja, perfekt, Scorpion, danke.
There definitely is. It's going to be fake out onto the Landorus first to be kicking things off. Sword Dance, though, so you're not going to necessarily have to rely on a crit. You can just try and be getting that damage up. It's going to be a +1 attack now after that one, but it's not going to be allowed to just sit here and run amok for free. Toxic fired off into it. It's going to badly poison it, so it's going to be taking more and more damage as things go on.
You know, I really like this play by Pheasantipity, knowing that the Sludge Bomb may not even get the poison on it. It's not going to be able to get anywhere near a KO. Let's just guarantee that the poison happens on Ogerpon with that Toxic. And I mean, one way to be able to negate your Intimidate drops is by going for that Sword Dance. So I believe
diese Ogerpon-Plüschis sind so
It's going to be incredibly formidable with those Ivy Cudgels into Pheasantipity. So I'm glad it got the Toxic off there when it had the chance.
I'm still just worried about the amount of damage that Adam can be doing. Sure, your Pokemon is poisoned, but if there's ways around it. And if there is a passive turn coming out from Flavio, there is still the potential setup coming out from this Landorus to get a substitute to make things even more difficult. If you can get a Toxic into it before that case, it would be great. But at this turn, Pheasantipity is just going to protect.
All eyes on Landorus and who it wants to target down.
Auch jemand von den On-Stream, den ich meine, wir haben aktuell 6 Leute, die 2-0 stehen. Ich meine,
This is a +1, normally not doing too much damage, but this is significant.
Okay, es macht nicht viel. Citrus Berry. Ah, Chocoberry, der meint, aber es killt. Ich weiß nicht, ich mag das Team von Flavio, aber irgendwie fehlt mir da eine Menge. Wisst ihr, wie ich meine? Also es ist so ein bisschen, gibt schon einen Grund, warum die nicht so viel gespielt werden, was er da so zockt. Das ist halt so dieses Problem, wenn du halt Anti-Meta spielst. Also ich sehe die ganze Zeit Flavio komplett wilde Plays ziehen, aber kommt halt nichts bei rum, ne? Und Adam drückt halt einfach so die besten Power-Moves und gewinnt halt gerade. Er ist jetzt 2-0 gegangen. Ja.
But Adam as well can look at potentially just swapping something out
here.
Protection. Or protecting and trying to deal with that Backscalibur with a hit coming out from the Ogerpon, because that certainly is going to be hurting as well.
That is very true. A lot of options for our traders here. You can see the Terrestrialization being hovered on by Flavio here, wanting to give it that water typing, so it's not going to have to take so much damage here and just able to, you know, give that bulk in its position against.
Irgendwie fehlt mir bei Flavios Team eine Menge. Das ist halt der Fluch von Anti-Meta.
Well, water, Terrasilize, and Pheasantipity, not the words that I thought I'd ever say here at EUIC, but hey, we're saying it, and I cannot wait. Protect on Backscalibur, make sure that you're not going to be taking a powerful hit this time around. It's Pheasantipity's time to go onto the offensive, but again, hitting into the not protected Pokemon. I think Adul is not going to be doing too much, but that's still a significant chunk of damage with Terrasalization. Citrus Berry will get a little bit of recovery up, though.
The Terrestrialization was incredibly necessary there. You can also see the follow-up from this Landorus with the Earth Power, but it was going into the Backscalibur, so a nice protect on Flavio. So it really is about this Pheasantipity. It goes for the Sludge Bomb, not doing too much damage, and of course, Ogerpon just already poisoned, takes that little bit of chip.
It is going to be toxic.
Ja, ich sag's, Scale-Deutsch, weißt du, kann ich schon verstehen, aber das ist halt, es wirkt gerade so, als wären Pheasantipity und Gastrodon seine Main-Pokémon. Weißt du? Scale-Deutsch war wahrscheinlich so ein, es war so nebenbei und hat halt funktioniert. Let's go, Kusha! Let's freaking go! Du bist eine Maschine. Du bist doch geil, holy shit.
And I don't think you have to be worried about the Gastrodon.
Let's freaking go.
That Rillaboom in the back nice and safe. That can also bring back that grassy terrain that has left the field, give your Pokemon a little bit of recovery, as well as apply that fake up pressure. So Gastrodon isn't really playing a big role here. So if you are Adam, you can kind of almost feel like Flavio's down to 2 remaining Pokemon. The Gastrodon isn't going to play a strong offensive
Noch nie 3-0 gestartet, ja. Ihr seid's, Kusha, ihr seid's.
Adam's end in lieu of that Landorus Eye. And of course, that will be the grassy terrain set back up. So that'll be a little bit of recovery. Could make all the difference in
Stimmt,
this
welchen
turn.
Sechser spielst du eigentlich, Pusha?
And the poor Gastrodon, your
Es
poor
gibt zwei Leute aus
Gastrodon
Malta
coming
hier,
back
aus
onto
über
the field
900
to
und ich
stare
spiele
down this
gegen
big
die
bad
einzigen
Rillaboom.
beiden
Hey, it's trying
Back
its
to
best. You can see
back.
the cudgel come through from the Ogerpon.
Geil.
Has got the
Richtig
attack
übrig,
boost, however.
okay.
So as much as the Gastrodon would normally really resist
Ja,
this
das sieht
attack,
hier,
it's not going to
das
be
sieht
able
hier
to
nach
hang
gar
on
nichts
here.
aus.
Flavio will be down to the last two remaining Pokémon.
Bei Flavio
If it was
läuft
the
hier gar
Back
nichts.
Scalaba left as well, you would have liked it to try and target down
Fitzel
into that
Pitti ist so ein
opposing Rillaboom.
Opfer.
Although it has
So
got the
ein
poison from the
Loser.
Sludge Bomb,
Mein
you can see
Jakob,
how little damage
der
that
macht
Fezzen
legit
Deputy is
nichts.
actually dealing out on the field, particularly as it is a water terror now.
Der
There's
macht hier
not
gar
a lot it
nichts.
can do to Rillaboom, and there's a lot Rillaboom can do to it.
And that'll be the grassy terrain recovery to be coming in for all of these Pokemon before that damage tick. And that is going to be the Ogerpon Heartflame surviving past this turn and only a smidge done into this Rillaboom. I think that there's just a little bit too much momentum taken by Adam, so sure,
geht
both of
wirklich
these Pokemon are toxic.
Vielleicht fängt sich Flavio gleich noch, aber ich habe so das Gefühl, der spielt es hier gerade schon fast perfekt. Ich pfeife zu Pitti für dein Potenzial und wieder weg stream. Alles klar, Kusha, bis später. Der Poison halt alles, was da kommt. Ja, aber das wirkt gerade so wie sein Main-Attacker. Und der macht viel zu wenig Schaden.
If you're back Excalibur, yes, you can go for something like the Ice Shard for the priority, maybe just try and get the KO on that Ogerpon.
You could go for it. Make sure the Ogerpon doesn't have the
Kack
capability
Team,
of
raus
attacking,
mit
because
dem.
he does get one more attack off
Nein.
before he does get KO'd at the end of this turn because of that toxic damage. No amount of grassy terrain recovery is going to be helping you at that point. There is still swapping potentials, though, and Adam's been so good at calling the protects. That's Serendipity or Protect to start this one off.
Let's see if Adam has called this one.
Ja,
It's
macht er
actually
auch.
going to be the double. Maybe Flavio just
Protection.
as burn the fake out on this
Protection.
Rillaboom. You can see it was going down into the opposing back Excalibur here.
Excalibur
So
team
maybe even going
protect.
for something like a sword stance as the Ogerpon also goes for the damage to no avail. The other nice thing about
Feier's.
the double protect is the poison stacking up.
Feier die italienischen
You
Namen.
get through the fake out, you get through
Der
this
stimmt halt, glaube ich,
Ogerpon,
nicht,
and you get a
oder?
little bit of more recovery on this Serendipity. It was taken
Serendipity.
decently low to about a third at one point, but with the Citrus Berry and the damage,
Stimmt der?
the heal over and
Okay.
over, it's been getting up. And now Ogerpon has been dealt with. Slowly but surely.
Le Ogerpon, ja, okay, das ist der
I
französische
actually
Name.
really like that observation by Flavio, playing it very, very safe. You know, there was no need to go for something like the Ice Shard into the KO because the double protect enables it anyway. The only way Adam could have got around that is by switching the
Oder?
Ogerpon out, and you don't necessarily want to do that with the boosts. You now as well get the free switch into one of your healthy Pokemon in the back.
War die vierte Runde klar, stimmt
Exactly.
der?
You still have
Ja, war doch
many
keine
healthy Pokemon, though, and Pokemon that can be
schwere
dealing a lot of
Vergiftung, oder
damage,
nicht?
too. You do have to
Hat
be
er den mit
careful with
Sludge
that
Bomb
Landorus
gepoisoned
in
oder mit
particular,
dem
though,
anderen Move?
Because of the fact that you don't have that fake out anymore with the Rillaboom
War es eine
already
schwere
being on the
Vergiftung?
field, and you are at mercy of the Ice Shard. Of course, it can protect while you try and
Das war
just deal
Toxic.
with the Backscalibur
Achso, ich dachte, es wäre ein
into
Sludge Bomb
it.
Poison gewesen. War
Looking
Toxic,
at
okay.
this Rillaboom, though, it is just going to be those grass
Okay.
moves
Ja, dann
and
nehme ich zurück.
a Bug-type move in that U-turn.
My question is, though, what stops Adam just going for a Grassy Glide into the Serendipity that's also just protected, unlikely to be able to get that
Ja,
double
jetzt kann ich ihn
protect, and at the
protecten.
same time,
Jetzt kriegt
the
er dann
Urshifu
einen
with that
Close
choice
Combat
go
reingedrückt.
for a very speedy, very powerful close combat into the Excalibur. It looks like all the momentum really is on Adam's side of the field.
And it has been from the beginning, too. This is definitely a slower team. And when we have these Pokemon that are just so powerful through, they can just kind of KO through your team before the poison damage.
Ne, das habe ich mir auch gerade gedacht, Scorme. Ich wünschte, da würde nicht Avelenato stehen, sondern Super Avelenato. Irgendwie anders angezeigt halt. Okay, that's light. Close Combat. Und der Light, ja. Oh, das killt. Avelenato Ultra.
I mean, the Serendipity has not been the biggest issue.
Ich habe aber anders vom Toxic Poison.
Definitely can threaten.
Von dem
So
Schriftzug
getting
da
rid of
oben.
that in that order.
Das
Serendipity
wird
doing something though. That will
Avelenato
be
Ultimate.
over onto your Shifu. Okay, that was at a
Hey,
lower
crazy,
special
wirklich?
defense, but Serendipity will
ich gar
take a KO. But since the
Was
Excalibur
ist
has
das
been taken down,
geht?
it won't be able to deal with the final two Pokemon.
Yes, habe ich.
Yes, and it was nice for Serendipity to show us that it can get those big knockouts as well. Moonblast, a really nice choice of
Ja, keine Ahnung, was Serendipity kann. Der macht halt so Dinge und fliegt, weißt du?
Fliegt.
Und hilft den Leuten. Und der fliegt.
Dancel
3-0. Dancel 3-0. Ein Macher. Dancel 3-0. Big.
To be dealing the damage first. Super effective because of the water chastisation will do so much. And out of two, you can keep it safe. Sure, you can go for that double hit into it, but a substitute as well will make sure that you're good going on into the next turn. Sludge Bomb will deal the damage. We will get the round of Grassy Terrain recovery, though, and I don't know if the Toxic is quite enough yet to take care of that Rillaboom. It's going to be close. Ooh, but no dice.
Yeah, and even if you go for the Protect now on the Fezandipity to maybe try and get the KO onto that opposing Rillaboom, the fact that the Landorus is set up that substitute really does secure Adam's victory in this game 1. I think Flavio can see the writing on the wall here and is just ready to get into game 2.
100%.
Ja, das war's irgendwie nicht so.
Flavio, I mean, hey, I'm impressed the Fezandipity got that one KO, that one last KO, you know?
Ich glaube, es wird demnächst wieder besser. Wirklich das Beste, Mann.
But see that there is a potential little bit of damage and how much those poisons can be stacking up. Unfortunately, not just enough. So that's where I'm curious with how things will be adjusted. I'm sorry, Lou. I think the biggest thing for me is that the Gastrodon never had an opportunity to do absolutely anything. It was there to kind of scare Adam off from the Urshifu. Well, the Urshifu with the close combat still feels so good and does so much to the team that I feel like you just have to take care of the Urshifu the old-fashioned way, or the old-fashioned way for Flavio, which is the Fezandipity.
100%. I do have to agree with you. As much as I love the Gastrodon at this particular juncture, it just doesn't have the capabilities to be able to deal with the opposing side on Adam's side. It really does only have the potential to threaten that opposing Urshifu, and Adam wasn't playing. It wasn't going to risk going for that surging strikes and falling into the trap. This was a really nice play by Adam as well, going for the sword stance there, being able to just offset those intimidates and parting shots that Flavio was really trying to utilize, and it just meant that the offensive pressure was constantly coming out from Adam's side.
Especially when you're looking at the constant protects that Flavio did to get that poison chip as well, get past through some fake out turns, etc. You have the capability to go for that sword stance, and you weren't really threatened too much with that Heartflame Ogrepon after you Trastlize anyways.
Raidon, Duraludon, Raidon, Tiagadon, Pikeadon, and
So it was definitely more than safe to make sure that, hey, sure, you've pivoted in and out multiple times, but that's about where it ends.
You know, Rillaboom was having a great time on Adam's side when you think about it. There was a Gastrodon, there was a Water Terrestrialized Fezandipity, both Pokemon that Rillaboom has no trouble clearing off the board. As well, when you take a look at the Baxcalibur, you know, its only Ice-type move is that Ice Shot, not known to be able to deal a huge amount of damage. So generally speaking, the Rillaboom is pretty safe, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Adam make sure that comes together as well.
I think the biggest thing that we haven't necessarily talked about when Flavio's as well is just how
Cognodon, Alter, Cognodon, mein Lieblingsdrachen-Pokémon.
Adam's Pokemon are quite speedier than Flavio's, even just on a natural level here. Getting into game 2, another speedy, strong lead coming up from Adam. Double Grass,
Groudon.
Again, Fezandipity and Incineroar to start for Flavio.
Okay, Incineroar.
You know what, I really like this adjustment by Flavio.
Da ist für Fezandipity jetzt gut.
Hier finde ich ihn jetzt strong. A little bit earlier in the game, as well as the fact it doesn't have that water terrestrialization anymore. It's not going to be worried about taking these grass type moves. The Intimidate being able to kind of
ich habe nur noch Hyperbälle, es ist so Jobber. Ich würde so gerne jetzt zu den Pokestops gehen, aber ich muss arbeiten.
So there is the fake out potential into the Fezandipity.
Timodon, steht Timodon.
And even just setting up with his
Pantimodon.
So it's kind of a lead that maybe is a little passive coming out from Flavio, and there is a potential for Adam here to take just a big lead here. Fake out will go into the Fezandipity. No fake out from Incineroar. 3 sword stance.
This sword stance is huge early doors in this game 2. No fake out coming out.
Ich wünschte, das würde da irgendwie ein Ding stehen, ne?
Does enable Flavio to get the Incineroar off the field to intimidate a little bit later on, and this free switch could be really nice to bring in one of these utility Pokemon in the back. I would not be. Oh, I am surprised to see Gastrodon still there, but Excalibur definitely the perfect choice against 2 grass-type Pokemon.
Yeah, that's definitely trying to make a little bit more headway here. You do have the opportunity of just trying to intimidate Cycle 2. Rillaboom is now down to -1. The Ogrepon is at +1, but if it wants to keep that +1, if there is the Intimidate, it would have to terrestrialize. It is the +1 now, but you want to be trying to eliminate if you're Flavio, because the Ogrepon hitting into that Fezandipity is going to be so much damage.
That's very true, and you can see the Excalibur in a position where it can go for some offensive damage. It could always try and go for a sword stance of its very own, try and get a lot of pressure on the field, but I think if you're Flavio, the mistakes in game 1 was the fact that you weren't getting enough damage down on the board. So if you are Flavio here, you want to try and make sure you're not recreating those errors and just trying to get a lot of damage out. Something like the Rillaboom that's able to switch off with a U-turn as well. You want to make sure it's not coming in nice and healthy in the end game like in game 1.
And that's where we see the hover...
Hier links Abgangstirade plus Intimidate, ne? Hallo, Ubi, Asla! Ja, die wollen wir holen wahrscheinlich übersehen. Kann ich ja auch machen. Starker Toxic. U-Turn ist okay.
Nice to see the speed advantage of the Fezandipity there, just being able to get the damage on the board before the Rillaboom is able to leave. That just kind of puts a little bit of a spanner in the works for when it rejoins later on. The Urshifu, however, definitely a difficult Pokemon to deal with into that Baxcalibur with the close combat, considering as well Baxcalibur wasn't able to go for any damage. The Glaive Rush going into the spiky shield, it takes damage itself for its troubles.
Oh, ich habe, glaube ich, noch nie gesehen, wie jemand einen Move in Spiky Shield gedrückt hat. Das ist mir noch nie passiert.
This is the situation you were in before.
Die Spiky Shields sind meistens immer sehr predictable.
To make sure you weren't hit by a surging strikes. Well, close combat is just as good if you're Adam at this point. You're still going to be dealing so much into the Baxcalibur. You deal so much into the Gastrodon. So you're not even threatened too much of it by that point.
You just have to watch out for the close combat coming through from the Urshifu, particularly if you are that Baxcalibur and you switch out for maybe something like the Incineroar. Being able to throw an Intimidate down sounds great, but you are going to have to take that close combat. Of course, with the Intimidate, you are likely to be able to still hang on.
Ich frage mich, warum er nie Offensivdruck ausübt und immer Toxic drückt.
But it's a difficult situation. It would take a lot of damage from Flavio very early on.
Man könnte mit Sludge Bomb doch richtig viel offensiv hier. Moonblast und Urshifu könnte hier doch easy kommen. Ich weiß nicht, warum er mal das Toxicen will, anstatt das zu töten.
Bring this Urshifu down to -1 and lowering a little bit of that damage. Terastallization now though coming out.
Terrat.
Yeah, it's going to bring some sparkling to the EUIC stage. It's once again that
ja, jetzt, also warum hat er nicht Moonblast in den Ding-Slot gedrückt? In den Urshifu-Slot. Ich verstehe Flavio gar nicht.
Yeah, you want to make sure that the Fezandipity is doing as little as possible, and if we want to be getting the
U-Turn. Predicted er, hat er Toxic gedrückt, weil er den Switch predicted, aber hier kommt auch Guardrom rein. Landorus, okay, na meinte ich ihm alles zurück. Flavio ist der beste Spieler der Welt. Hey.
I honestly like that for the Incineroar as well. It's able to get him relatively safely and can apply fake-up pressure in this next turn.
Er ist der beste Spieler.
As well, doing negligible damage. This really was a nice turn for the Incineroar. Not so nice for the opponent.
Ah, nee, er hat Toxic in Ogerpon gedrückt. Okay, na mein, er hatte das nicht in Dings gedrückt gerade. Nur Urshifu.
What I think the funniest thing is with this Fezandipity is that
strong, Max, that's strong. Ja, finde ich gut. Warte, warum wollte er nicht Moonblast drücken? Hat er damit gerechnet, dass er viel U-Turn geht? Maybe.
But you relying on it so much. But that's two of Adam's Pokemons now that are now badly poisoned. Sure, well, the Grassy Train is up. It won't be the biggest thing, but it could... This goes on longer and longer, and Adam hasn't had that same damage potential yet in Game 2 as he had in Game 1. The longer the match goes on, the better it is for Flavio.
That's the thing, the Sand Timers have only started ticking away against these toxic Pokemon, and the Rillaboom's even in the back where it's not going to be affected by that at all. It only takes effect when it's on the field. So Ogerpon's still got a lot of HP remaining. There is the potential of this grassy terrain as well, and even if it goes down, Rillaboom
Take out the Nando, okay.
To see the fake out, however, go down
SD
into that opposing land
ist okay.
And of course,
Sie
Ogerpon utilizing the opportunity
Slash
to get
Bomb oder
another
Moonblast?
sword stance up.
Yeah, just going for it, trying to make sure you could be doing as much damage as possible. Now after that, the Landorus can't be setting up at all. Sludge Bomb just going to be good for a little bit of damage here.
Italienisch. It's Italiener.
Slowly but surely. But I'm worried about this Ogerpon at this point. Plus 2 attacks, sorry, but that is still a lot.
Heim 2-1. Hat er was getweetet oder was?
There's a lot that Flavio seems to be doing to try and target it down and remove it from the field. The issue for me, if you're Flavio, is the fact that this Landorus is now really unchecked. It can go for something like the Earth Power into this opposing Incineroar, or it could even try and get something like a substitute set up, because there's not really a lot that Incineroar or Fezandipity can do to it. So if you can get the substitute set up and keep yourself a little bit protected on the field, that could be a really good endgame strategy for Adam.
100%. And
ja, Flo und Benny auch 2-1. Und Domji 1-2. Damn. Aber Michi auch 3-0.
Predicting where the protects were the first time around, but this time will be hitting Cudgel into that Fezandipity. The bird staying safe. Landorus, though, that'll be the substitute.
That's exactly what Landorus wants to get, and although there is the newfound confidence from Fezandipity going for these protects, it's not really going to be able to deal too much damage at this point in time. The Incineroar going for the parting shot. This is a nice way to start negating some of that pressure that the Ogerpon is building and allow Flavio to bring in a Pokemon from the back. That Gastrodon is still secret. It is still safe for now, but Flavio is wondering, is it the moment? And I really think the only time to bring Gastrodon in this matchup is when that Urshifu is in play. So really nice to bring the Baxcalibur in.
Yeah, the Gastrodon's in a really rough territory otherwise. The Baxcalibur coming in.
So, Gastrodon ist halt über nice gegen Urshifu.
Especially since it is behind the substitute, so it is kind of here at this point to where you can break that and try and deal a little bit of damage at this point. Grassy Terrain is going to be ending, so that's going to be done with the health healing this time around, so the toxic damage is going to be stacking
safe, Leute, safe.
More and more. You can't be attempting to go and just try and preserve this Serendipity and just trying to intimidate cycle a little bit.
I mean, we talk about preserving and protecting Serendipity, right? It's sitting there with a full HP bar. Flavio definitely has done well conserving it a little bit more in this game too compared to game 1, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Adam start switching onto the offensive a little bit more. That's what really gave him the momentum in the first match. And Ogerpon, it is ticking away. That poison is stacking up, and it needs to be able to start getting the big damage out as soon as it can.
Was geht, Nico? Was geht?
Going to be a little bit more exposed. Wouldn't be surprised to see the Ivy Cudgel come that way.
It's going to be the Serendipity swapping out this time around, though. The Ogerpon has gotten enough circumstances. You want to make sure that damage is lowered for when it does start going on the
Das
offensive.
ist plus minus 0 gewesen, das Ogerpon, ne?
Make sure you can do that damage now. So that is going to be Incineroar swapped in. That'll be a round of
Nice shot in Landorus.
Into the Landorus. Priority will be acting.
Kommt ihr nicht Earth Power maybe in den Incineroar slot?
Not letting this Landorus just sit there unchecked.
And with the health that Baxcalibur has as well, we will have to see how this goes down here, but it's in an interesting spot the next turn to go for another one of those ice shards. Okay, maybe not. Critical hit comes through. Baxcalibur is now alone on the field. Flavio not happy with that play.
Da kommt die Earth Power. Hat er die Schokoberry? Überlegt mit 4 KP, okay. That's big.
4 HP left.
I mean, the Landorus is in prime position
right Nico, aber ey, ich wünsche dir eine sehr, sehr schöne Zeit für dein schönes Wochenende.
Bruto able to apply so much pressure to that opposing Incineroar. I mean, things are looking very dicey for Flavio. You do still have Gastrodon and Serendipity at full HP, but let's not be kidding ourselves. These are not the offensive powerhouses that Adam has on his side of the field.
No.
We'll have to hope that Gastrodon can be a powerhouse and fast, though. Hitting the field.
Okay.
Definitely have to be relying on it.
Stormy 1-2.
Is gone, so you aren't going to be hit by a potential Grassy Glide priority over onto the Ogerpon.
Dankeschön,
and
Nico.
You do have the potential still of Terra on your end to try it and get out
Keo
of the weakness there. It does feel bad that you might be potentially into that, but at the same time, you do have to actually deal some damage going on. Ice Beam, considerably too, could actually effectively deal with this Landorus.
I want to say when there's a Gastrodon, there's a way, but it's a very long way for Gastrodon to be able to come back into this. However, that being said, let's look at the potential. Gastrodon is running Ice Beam. That's something that the Landorus does not want to take. The Ogerpon as well no longer has the grassy terrain on the field, won't get that priority grassy glide, but I think its natural speed is going to be able to allow it to go before that Gastrodon regardless, but at least it won't get the boost that you get from grassy glide, and maybe there's some...
Yes, wusste ich, was geht.
As the Terrestrialization has not been used on Flavio's side of the field yet.
Käfer. Geht all in. Was ist fertig für die Arbeit. Strong, strong. Muss sein. Okay, Protect. Ein Spiky Shield.
Gastrodon can't do anything on this turn.
Oh, stark.
So Gastrodon will stay safe for now, but it's not the only one that's going to be staying safe, as the Landorus did go for the Protect, so no Ice Beam there, and you are not in a great spot going into.
Aber ist nicht für den Ogerpon gegangen.
This might be the cutest thing
I've ever seen Bug-type
Gastrodon.
Leider gerade einen Loose geholt.
Right, though, it was a fantastic Terrestrialization call in the face of the Grassy Glide, but now that Ivy Cudgel is in prime position to be able to get the KO on the Gastrodon in the next turn. A wise defensive play from Adam, stopping that Ice Beam from being able to get the knockout. The one thing that's nice, though... Oh, Ogerpon's gone. It's completely out of there, so maybe Gastrodon is crawling its way back into this match after all.
More and more damage from those Toxics coming on through. Going to be enough this time around to take care of that Ogerpon. So actually, Terrestrialization coming up from the Gastrodon looking good on that turn. And sure, the Rillaboom's still in the back, but the thing is now since, hey, it's
Shiny Carpador und dieses Käfermon von Anfang kamen sie mir fällt der Name nicht ein. Was meinst du, Nico? Mickrig? Ah, du hast gestern 2 Shinies bekommen. Oh, Tarundel, Mickrig, aber kriegt Banger.
Gastrodon in check, but if Gastrodon's able to hang on and just go for one Ice Beam, then that opposing Landorus is gone. The one issue that's coming into fruition
Ich glaube, man spielt Gastrodon eher gar nicht. Ducky auch 2-1, okay. Tarundel, ja, und der hat ein geiles Shiny. Der hat beide geile Shiny. Gastrodon sieht hier strong aus. Legit, was tötet hier Gastrodon?
You can either just go for the double protect or try and make a call. You definitely don't want to be on the wrong end of the fake out and have the Pokemon potentially take it out. But if you can make the call right, it could be potentially huge going in on this turn. So you definitely have a decision to make. When your Pokemon aren't the same strong offensive Pokemon that Adam has, it could be a risk worth taking.
Yes, if you are the Gastrodon, you want to kind of, I think, avoid the Rillaboom at this point. The Woodhammer, Grassy Glide, U-turn not going to be doing too much. You've got to find a way to get the Landorus down and maybe enable the Fezandipity and the Incineroar to deal with that partner Pokemon in the form of the Rillaboom.
Swapping out the Fezandipity, though, Incineroar just on a sliver of health is going to be coming on in. That'll be the Intimidate, drop down the attack of the Rillaboom. Fake Out does go into the Gastrodon this time around. Critical hit Fake Out as well to deal that extra little bit of chip. A Sludge Bomb into the Gastrodon is going to be not near enough to take that out. A little bit of recovery now, and Flavio has the Fake Out pressure on this turn.
Nicht
I think Flavio really hoping the Fake Out was
War
going to go
trotzdem
down
nichts
to that
gegen
Fezandipity
Gastrodon, der ist ja
slot, enabling the
Käfer.
Ice Beam to come out from that Gastrodon. Was not happy to see the Fake Out come through, particularly the double up as well. I think Adam realizing that the Gastrodon needs to be taken down because dare I say it was the threat at that point in time.
Ich weiß nicht, was da steht. Ich wünschte, was ist Badiglio? Das klingt so, was ist Badiglio? Komm einfach, Fuga und raus da.
His Pokemon are relatively unhealthy compared to Adam's.
That's the thing. All the Toxics in the world aren't going to help.
Aber Genesung hat, glaube ich, 8 AP.
At this point. And with these two both on a sliver of health, and just the Grassy Glide pressure coming out on the opposing end, and just the speed coming out from the Landorus, and both of these Pokemon actually in the first place.
Protession.
Protect over on this turn coming out from the Landorus. So just
Seine dürfte Genesung haben alle Recover-Moves nicht mittlerweile 8 AP?
Nice call from Flavio going for the Fake Out into the opposing Rillaboom, with the Ice Beam going into the Protect on Adam's side. So Adam, I think, playing phenomenally well. Again, as Assault Vest Rillaboom, it couldn't protect even if it wanted to.
Ich glaube, fast alle Recovery-Moves wurden runter reduziert. Ja, und ist der zweite, okay.
You don't need to feel bad about that because, hey, you're not necessarily taking the most from the Toxic so far.
War unterschiedlich, Nico. Also ja, 8 mit AP-Top meine ich halt natürlich.
Over that with your poison, so take the one turn of Fake Out. You're still fine. You still have all that offensive pressure in the world over on this next turn. And I
Alle wurden runtergesetzt, ja. Also es gibt so ein paar Signature-Moves noch, die mehr haben, glaube ich, als 8. Aber, ja, deswegen. So, er kann kein Genesen haben.
But having to take that Fake Out and the Sludge Bomb just meant that it's not as threatening. And at the end of the day, I think if you're Flavio and you lose that Gastrodon, you don't really have a way to deal with this Landorus, and it's just going to be able to sweep through your team.
Ja, aber Genesen wäre hier auf Gastrodon so broken.
Very wise, the Sludge Bomb was coming into its direction from this opposing Landorus, and the Rillaboom, however, is not going to be able to KO the Incineroar. I was going to say, just ignoring the Gastrodon, trying to get an easy knockout, but it was not to be. The Incineroar is still here.
Hey, Incineroar is known for one thing, and it's being incredibly annoying. This time in the way that it's going to be surviving past this turn. And now, parting shot into the Landorus, and a chance for a pivot coming out from Flavio.
The one thing I like about the parting shot as well is it is lowering that special attack too. So that is something that is going to be affecting the Landorus and making those Sludge Bombs, the Earth Powers, just a little bit more underwhelming. And the issue is, the Landorus is so strong that you can take one parting shot and still be a formidable threat. Gastrodon reaping the benefits of the grassy terrain, and now Fezandipity in a prime position to try and maybe get that Moonblast off into that opposing Urshifu.
Yeah, you definitely need to deal with
something. In die linke oder rechte Hosentasche oder Arschtasche.
And both players have been really good at protecting their king, so to
say. Auch mit abstimmen.
Over on Adam's end, and dare I say it, Gastrodon over on Flavio's. That king swapping out, Incineroar going to be swapping back in at this point. You have another round of Intimidate. You also have the Fake Out pressure, or to eat a hit going up that way.
Yes, and I like the fact that the Incineroar is just for that Intimidate, but it's really null and void, considering the not only gets the KO here, but is going to be to enable the Urshifu to reset that Intimidate coming back in later.
Flavio did not look happy about that one. Fezandipity does have a chance to attack here at this point, but now Rillaboom hitting the field once again, and Fezandipity will be taking a hit first. Firing off retaliation, lasted just chipping away. It's not much, but it's honest work.
Yeah, and I like the targeting there because it must have been so tempting to go down into that.
Gerne die Abstimmung reingehen, Chat.
Particularly if you were thinking maybe it's going to go for something like the close combat here and lower its defenses and special.
Ich könnte mir, also ich kann ja darüber offen reden, beeinflusst ja, denke ich, jeder wird ja schon eine gefestigte Meinung haben. Ich könnte mir überhaupt nicht vorstellen, mein Handy in die rechte Hosentasche zu packen. Nee, Maxler, nee. Ich beeinflusse doch niemanden, Mupi, als ob ich jemanden beeinflussen würde. Jeder weiß doch, wo man sein Handy hinpackt. Ist ja immer Portemonnaie auf der rechten Seite. Ist ja immer Handy links. Ich kann mir nicht vorstellen, die ist vom Schlüssel und 11.
That's going to be the if, though, and the 3-minute timer here at this point, we have to start looking
for the Arsch wurde geklaut.
a long time that Flavio has been on these two Pokemon. And of course, when you have a team that is more slowly built, that'll be a big thing. And Adam has to be really worried about the preservation.
Aber ich pack mein Handy immer nach links.
Moonblast could actually be in a range that you could potentially pick up the KO if there is that Landorus swap. And if you can get it
ich kann mir
down
nicht vorstellen, mein Handy rechts zu haben. Ich bin nicht so handysüchtig wie alle, Chat. Mein Portemonnaie ist mir wichtiger, dass ich das direkt greifen kann.
Still stopping thanks to its Storm Drain ability, the opposing Urshifu from going for those surging strikes that must be ever so tempting for it. It is Choice Scarf, so it will be locked into whatever it goes for. Possibly even see something like the Ice Spinner here just to be
bin nicht so handysüchtig. Für mich hat Pokémon Prio.
Your special defense like close combat would enable, or at the same time, now with only 2 minutes left on the clock, do you want to keep rotating those Pokémon
and preserve? You
could see something like a U-turn, but from the Gastrodon,
zahle mit meinem Handy. Okay, Raizor, sorry, dass du in der Zukunft lebst. Die Schlüssel gar nicht in der Hosentasche. Das ist ja einfach nur unbequem.
This point, it'll be the Moonblast, fire off, not nearly enough for a KO since no special defense lowered at this point. And now, sure, you are safe past the Rillaboom, but with that Unseen Fist taking that damage,
ja, wenn es schnell gehen muss meistens schneller gehen.
You lose this match, and I don't think I'm just gonna let it happen.
Honestly, it's always so devastating to see a protect that then the Urshifu targets down into. I think if you're Flavio there, you're really hoping that Adam's going to try and capitalize on the Pheasantipity and just get it off the field because those Moonblasts are indeed very threatening. But instead,
so, jetzt hier genug Portemonnaie-Handy. Ich will wissen, wie das Game weitergeht.
And that's the thing.
Ihr seid lost, Chat.
Just need to get, like, even just the HP down. If Adam doesn't lose,
ja, ich sag Arsch ist lost. Ich sag allgemein, ich pack nichts in meine Arschtasche. Gleiches Timeout.
That is going to be enough to take down the Gastrodon. The Pheasantipity won't be able to take
Ach du Scheiße. Junge, was machen die da?
Adam can start celebrating this 2-0.
Gastrodon put up an epic fight, but now it is really all eyes on this Pheasantipity. It's able to get the KO, but there's still, as you've mentioned, Sierra, a 2v1 Pokemon deficit for Flavio. And as those seconds tick away, the trainer who has the most Pokemon remaining will be able to come out victorious.
Aber das Ding ist halt...
Yeah, and at this point, just under 30 seconds left. Won't have an
Landorus
opportunity to go
schneller.
for another turn in
Er wird einfach Protect hat er gewonnen.
It was such a cool concept coming out from Flavio with this team.
Er kann hier Fake out Protect drücken, hat er gewonnen.
I'm not going to be surprised if this is a theme throughout the day when we're looking at a team with this Gastrodon and this Pheasantipity.
Der Timer dauert jetzt hier sogar noch, das ist ja überwitzig.
It's just a tough thing. We're going to not even get all the Pokemon on the field before the timer runs out at this point. Landorus, Rillaboom.
Das ist ja wild.
I mean, that is done.
But, over.
Wow, it was, what an insane match.
Huge congratulations to Adam for being able
die
to
switchen schon. Die müssen noch Moves drücken.
Match is the victor. I think he just needed to double check for a second, make sure, but huge congratulations to Adam, winner of this.
Ja, Team sah funny aus, aber Antimeter bewährt sich halt nicht.
On his face, like, oh my goodness, like that was a long match.
Ja, Timer ist schon wichtig. Wir können jetzt, imagine, das wäre jetzt noch ein Game 3 geworden.